All right, I'm back live and we got the new tape running here, so back on June 16th, yep, that's right. Got 9:36, we're back in open session. Is there any action in the closed session we just had?
I'll make a motion to accept the county attorney's advice on where litigation is imminent.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve, to accept the county attorney's direction on what'd you say? Imminent. And litigation. Perfect. Any discussion on that motion by Scott, second by Steve? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried. All right. We'll do the other RFP quick. Shouldn't take that long. Open request for proposals for RFP for human resource services. One did not respond back as a bidder. That was Lynch Dallas PC. Thank you for the inquiry. Our firm is not planning to submit a response at this time. We did get 3 responses back. Some are open, some are not by me, none of them were. David opened one, Sheila opened one by accident, just because we didn't know where we were with potential pending litigations. So they both confirmed that they were RFPs, so they got them sealed back up. Just an update with them all, none of them could be here today. But I think as our proposal said, is we were gonna open them today. But 2 of them are scheduled for Monday, unless this board sees differently. But 2 that responded back to Sheila was Brent and Paul from Guth and Associates. Mike's response was, do you have that copy? His response was, I'll read it if we can find it here. The board knows, if I can paraphrase. Right there it is. This was June 3rd. I believe Ann was preparing a response. I'm out of town on the 16th, but if the board would like a presentation, we can arrange something. I think the board knows what services we provide, but I will defer to them. So, how do you guys want to handle these? Tentatively, Paul Guth and Brent Hinders is willing to come up next Monday.
Can I ask before you open them? So right now we're with Ayers and Cooney.
Correct.
And what's the price right now?
$1,800 a month.
Okay, perfect.
But any travel or additional litigation or anything is extra.
Okay.
At an hourly rate, because I believe from their master contract that started probably 5-6 years ago, and ever since then, we just yearly renewed the same rate, the same price, the same service.
Thank you.
Because we'll open them?
Yep.
So this one is from Ayers and Cooney, Walford. The response, Mike, Ann, and Jeff. Jeff was added a couple months ago as another HR attorney with the firm. You guys can read his experience, labor relations, negotiated over 200 contracts under the new law since February of 17. I think he's probably talking about chapter 20. Yes, he is. A little bit about Mike and Ann and Jeff. The rate proposal. The firm proposed that it will provide the full scope of human services and labor negotiation services described above. Hourly rate proposal is, Mike is $350 per hour, Ann is $315, and Jeff is $275. These rates are billed in increments of 1/10 of an hour. Alternate or flat fee also proposed here. Human Resource Services is the firm proposed for the services set forth by the RFP for human resource. Excluding complex personnel investigations and collective bargaining services is $1,800. So it looks like the same rate. This has been the same rate we've charged Chickasaw County since 2020. And we are not proposing any increased rate. That's the current provider. This one is, let's copy the proposal, or RFP. PJ Gruth and Associates LLC out of Davenport. You guys can read this, it's all just pretty much, our firm shall conduct investigation required by Chickasaw County, including but not limited to allegations of harassment. We review current handbooks. We'll work directly with elected officials, department heads, pretty much the same stuff. PJ Gruth and Associates shall complete these services at a cost of $1,500 per month. Shall reimburse for mileage and any necessary lodging fees if requested to be on site. This same rate can be considered for a 2-year contract. Is also willing to administrate the Family Medical Leave Act, but it was not requested through the RFP.
So there's no hourly rate for
No hourly rate, no. He is not an attorney. The county had him for, I believe, like 12, 15 years prior to Mike and Ann. Some of us remember him. And then the last one is Hopkins and Herb PC out of Des Moines. Please accept this as their RFP for Human Resource Services. I have the authority to bind the law firm. I certified that this information is correct. For an overview, he has a list of all the attorneys that pretty much work for the law firm. References to Marion County, Jasper, Ringo, Webster, Palo Alto, right? And Iowa Municipalities Work Comp Association. Other clients at City Grimes, City of Muscatine, Iowa County Treasurers Association, Iowa League of Cities. Based on the aforementioned flat fee schedule, services will be billed at $24,000 a year for a 1-year contract, increasing to $48,000 for a 2-year contract. So we doubled it. I think it's $2,000 a month. Yeah. Shareholder attorneys at $200 an hour, associate attorneys at $180, traffic ticket $160, paralegals $100 an hour. They also bill 1/10 of an hour. More profiles of their education, their honors. That is the RFP bids proposals, I guess. I like to see this board listen to 2 of them before they make a decision, but if you guys want Mike or Ann to come up.
So,
So what, was that yes?
Yes.
Yes, so we will contact them like an AM and see if one of those two can come up for next Monday. I would assume all their prices are good for one more week. Scott, do you remember if we have a written email or contract that they go through July 1st, or do we have to look at that and find it?
yeah, I never seen them last year, and I know when I talked to Mike last year, it was just a continue from the original contract, so wherever the one was from 2020, I didn't.
Not saying we're gonna change, I will not say that today, but, you know, is there a
Terminate notice,
Yes.
terminate the contract.
So we'll have to look at the 2020, see if we have the master contract, or the very first one, to see if there was a termination, or, not, like I said, I'm not saying we're doing that. I'm just, if that happens Monday, we wanna make sure we know that information. All right, so we'll try to get all three of them for next week. Two are kind of on the agenda, but we'll get a hold of Mike or Ann to see if they're available. Looks like we have a couple of things left, they're kind of out of order, in my opinion. We'll do the discuss purchase and procurement policy. This was put on just due to seeing if it needs to be renewed, updated, or if we need to add a couple law changes, if there's any. Remember, this was passed in 2023 because we had two different policies. I think we had like a FEMA one that was a standalone for federal stuff. And then we had a purchase policy that was, I think, $2,500. But the board in 23 moved it up to 10,000. And Dave, you worked on this, I believe.
Yes.
It looks like it passed. I believe I was absent, but it passed 3-1 that day on July 9th. July 24th, 2023. Any discussion, anything we need to add to it?
So I think the issue is the purchase and procurement policy on page 2 says, unencumbered spending authority must exist at the appropriate department budget level prior to the purchase. Purchases or contracts up to 10,000 shall only require department head approval or authorization. And then the next line is the one that's the issue here. Purchases, leases, or contracts exceeding $10,000 shall also require approval or acknowledgement of both the department head and the authorized board members. If we chose those words, again, because you are approving some folks from some department heads, for instance, the emergency management system, or excuse me, EMS, which is under your jurisdiction, and you are acknowledging it for some other department heads, which would be the other 5 elected officials. So I guess this came to light last week. To my knowledge, the first time in almost 4 years that I've had where the board did not acknowledge a purchase by an elected official. So that's why this came to the forefront.
Yep, fair enough.
And you submitted that in the meeting last week. You got my memo from a year ago that outlines what everyone's roles are and abilities to do. And the exceptions to the general rule. Most of the exceptions actually do apply to the sheriff as an elected official.
Has anybody done any research or talked to other counties? I know we don't have to compare ourselves to other counties, but since this was a contract, can elected officials, non-board, go into and enter contracts? Dave, do you know if there's any standalone law on home rule?
I don't think there's anything that differentiates contracts from purchases. Not that I've found.
Do we need to fix up on page 3 where it also says for purchase between 10,000 and 25,000? Shall obtain a written bid for competitive pricing? And where it says but only with the approval or knowledge of both the department heads and the authorized board. And then the next bullet point, for purchases greater than 25,000, the department's office shall use either the sealed bid method or the competitive proposed method. Just trying to figure out if that was being done throughout county.
And I do not know.
I have a lot of writing in there too, because I mean, there's Iowa code that says all rock resurfacing can be done by quotes.
Correct.
Don't contradict code.
Sealed bids are competitive proposals. And I don't know what, I'm not privy to what bills the auditor is approving and which ones are coming through with or without that, or how it's being done, other than just what I see when I'm up here every Monday that people bring forward, conservation and your own and Ryan and Roman and everyone else, that brings things through. So I guess I'm not sure if that's an issue or presents any issues. But certainly we, as a government, we want to encourage competitive bidding as much as possible. That's the goal of that's the goal of the policy.
So I don't understand when you said that I'm approving. or
No, I'm not
through my
privy, I'm not
department.
privy to what's going on, what's going on. So I don't know how many 5 and 7 and 10 and 12 and $9,000 things get
Oh.
approved, yeah,
Oh.
without, what process they're going through for that. I mean, if there's a $7,000 flower pot out front, if we're bidding that out or how they're getting bids for that. I mean, other than the stuff that comes up here that I see, I don't know what else comes through, so I don't know if that's an issue or not, that's what I'm trying to say.
What about on the bottom of page 2, it said any and all lease or contract agreements exceeding 3 years, and link shall also require approval or acknowledgement of both the department head and authorized board. Is that an and or an or?
And again, the intent of this policy is that, and again, I'll go back to my general statement. I think the intent of the policy is that anytime anyone spends more than $10,000, we want the public to know about it. To me, that's the purpose of this policy, it's the purpose of what you did your policy for. I think perhaps maybe you're acknowledging it now, but more choice of words. Perhaps maybe you're understanding or coming to terms with the fact that you don't control those things by law, but you still want them brought before you so you have a chance to voice your opinion on them. And, that's my view as to why this policy is important, and it still has some purpose, it still has some teeth, because ultimately, I'm one of the 5 other elected officials that are also department head. We stand for retention, we stand for election every 4 years, just like you guys do. So to me, and again, I made this comment, if I wanted to spend $20,000 on a new software system in my office, the bottom line is I do not need your acknowledgement to do so. But I think it's important that I come to this board and say, hey, I want to do this, and get your feedback on it. And if you say you disagree with it for some reason, the public then is made aware of the fact that I'm spending that despite the board's discussion and despite the board's guidance as to what they may see for the vision for the county. And then the voters can decide, whether they side with the board, whether they side with the department head, the elected official who's doing so. But had that policy not been in place, I could have went and spent $20,000 on a software program and no one would have known. No voter would have had any idea what I was spending my money on. So I think that's the purpose of the policy. I think it does serve a good purpose, that those large purchases that I have the authority to spend my money on, I'm still coming before you and there's being light shed upon what's being spent by those other elected officials. Even though you don't have the ability to roadblock them, it mandates they come before you to bring to light what's being spent. That's how I look at it. Maybe that's incorrect, but that's my analysis. And again, this is, to my knowledge, this is the first time we've had it where someone's come and asked for approval or acknowledgement and been told no. So we disagree with you, I guess, maybe that's a better phrase.
You guys want to change anything or just keep it as is?
I don't know, maybe we change the title to transparency resolution instead of a purchase policy.
Well, it still affects everything under 10,000. I mean, those types of things. I mean, you still want to make sure you're you do a competitive bidding. That's the reason why we did this. And we didn't really look at the authority side of it. We were more looking, if my memory serves me right, 2 years ago. We were more redoing this to make sure we were complying with federal rules and state law with respect to competitive bidding quotations. But your point is well taken.
Well, I think, I don't know, Roland probably deals with the FEMA stuff. I would think this matches with the federal bidding guidelines,
But that's,
but that's always changing.
FEMA might be state aid too, we don't know. But, yeah, we have a procurement policy, which is required to even be FEMA eligible for reimbursement, so.
Any other discussion, Steve or Travis or Isaac? Any changes?
$10 seems like a lot of money. I mean, I've ordered the last time. It's a lot of money for one person to spend, so.
I know, but what's a road grader tire cost?
Not 10 grand, but
But what
it
if you
doesn't take long to get to 10 grand in rock, and if you guys really wanna approve that every time, we need rock.
And it used to be 5, I believe, before we did this policy, correct?
2,500.
2,500. Okay.
I know it's a lot of money, but I don't want to handicap any of our department heads sitting here on Tuesday waiting until next Monday to get something approved that they need, and if something broke down.
It's tough to make an all-encompassing policy with the various departments we have.
There's an exception in there for emergencies. Emergency, the very last section talks about emergency expenses that the department head can do so as long as they come to the board in next immediate meeting opportunity to explain it. So there's an exception in there for emergencies.
And there's a special provisions for secondary road department.
The only thing I can think that maybe should be changed is instead of approval, acknowledge to purchase, because that's what you're telling us, that all we can do is acknowledge. Because you
Just for the 4 elected officials.
For the other 5 elected officials, yes, but some departments you do actually, it's kind of like, that's why we put those words in there, both approve and acknowledge, because it depends on which department you're talking about. It's kind of like the public health coming forward a couple weeks ago about their bonuses and, their hiring and firing of people. You ultimately don't have any say in that, but they still come up and ask for your acknowledgement just to keep things clear with the auditor, and I think to bring light to what they're doing. It's like Scott said, it's a transparency thing.
Anybody want to change anything? All right, moving on. Thanks for the discussion. Discuss urban renewal plans, potential projects, and we added, Friday, me and Scott talked about this also. Discuss county-owned property / offices. Some of them do not fall under urban renewal plan.
Is that what you meant, they should be together?
Well, they should be together, but to me, I wanted to be clear that we might get off topic of the urban renewal plan tip. Or if we wanted to maybe not go down that road and use some capital project funds to, I hate to use the word, get started on something, or move the direction, we'll put it that way. So I guess the first thing we need to know is this, I'll give you an update on the urban renewal plan with Homeland Energy Solutions. I sent a text to Beth Eiler. I guess I'll just read it if they're watching. Just trying to figure out where they're at with their business proposal. Thanks for checking in. I need to get some things updated and send it your way. I hope to do that in the next couple of weeks. I still need to send to you first so you can pass along to the full board. So I can see something this week or next week, but at some point they will have a business plan potentially put together in the next couple of weeks. So going back to the question that we need to know. Since we had our public hearing and everything else with the urban renewal plan, are we moving forward to potentially check the box December 1st for a project to pay some of the ongoing expense that Sheila prepared? There's about, no, you didn't give it to all of them, they can have a copy though. We figure about 23,000 to date for professional services with Ayla Zakuni, with newspaper reportings, doing the plan, doing the blight analysis, doing the ordinance. So right now, we can collect 23,000 to be put back in GB, I believe, on December 1st.
Well, that would actually be technically the bottom. Market on December.
Market on December 1st for collection in September to be paid back. I think the paper that we had from Travis Wires, I did confirm with Ray's not here today, but this is the first year that we can check the box, the 5%, which is roughly that 360,000 that we could collect from all tax bodies on the growth of the Chickasaw wind project. Does this board want to use tax incentive financing for our urban renewal plan? Because that's where we need to start. And then we'll move into potential projects. You guys saw the committee put together a list of projects, but some of those can be changed. We can put some in front of the other ones. We can, but I think what we need to know is, does this board willing to enact the urban renewal plan on the financial side of it?
I think we should move ahead with TIF. I mean, I think it's a great tool to get some of our infrastructure updated.
I'm in favor. I'm on the fence.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. And I think I'm with you on some projects.
Well, that's kind of where I am. Some projects, yeah, some projects,
And that's a whole other discussion.
It's the next discussion. Yeah. So we can't, we have to check that box every December on projects, contracts, estimates, engineering, architects. Otherwise, it goes back to the tax bodies. And you guys have been through a lot of those meetings. What is our share? Anywhere from 20 to 30%.
Okay, could you briefly go over how TIF works for the public? Because I've had a lot of questions. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100%
Yeah,
versed in it, so.
Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that knows differently. So TIF is only on the incentive, so the black dirt was already there. The property owners were paying that tax. So it's on the growth. It's on the growth of, I thought, he's gonna put roughly 2 million per site. So 66 sites is gonna be appraised at an increment of 5%. Base year is 0, 5%. If anybody has that chart, I'm just going off memory. 5% up to 30. So once it's 30, it's maxed out. And it's only the growth on the turbines, the generator, the transformer, the wire, the blades. So that is 5%, that 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
The county grabs all of that. It's
Once you get to that
period.
You're
Other
about
than
$2 million,
for
It's about 2 million. Once we hit 17.
full potential.
So you're right, Mike. We grab the growth,
Right, they still get what they.
the base.
Right.
This is not any property around the turbines. This is strictly the 66 turbines generating this property tax. And then the other tax bodies, example, not gonna probably remember them all, community college, school district, townships, county RSB, county GBGS, assessor, bangs, extension office, any of those other ones, they would have saw the growth too. But the governing body of this county can take that tax incentive.
all except for the debt.
You're right, all except for the debt of the county and the debt of the school district.
And anything not utilized goes back to TIF is not in effect.
But, yeah,
If we don't check the box,
no, if we can check the box and say there's,
Excess of debt incurred.
yeah, there's
or-
$50,000 worth of tax there, we only take 20,000. Then the other 30,000 will be distributed.
on a percent basis.
Yeah,
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
You know, I took some phone calls too, that they thought their property was gonna go up. No.
I took some calls where they're thinking that they're not paying taxes at all,
Oh, no, they're paying.
so I just wanted to get that out to the public. Yeah.
Which is, you know, all these wind turbines are located within the New Hampton School District. New Hampton School District gave their approval of this to an extent.
Yeah, the superintendent was up here that day, yes.
Hence, all the projects are located within the school district. Some of the roadways that have another 2-3 mile extension from that paved road, we extended them out for simplicity of a project. You know, Howard County did it. They're still in TIF, I believe. Their school district loved it because you're upgrading roads and bridges at times. So,
So I think, yeah, I think are you okay now?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move forward. I think we have the consensus to TIF. We want to move forward with the urban renewal plan. Remember Travis's presentation, you know, we need to decide sometime in August, September on what the projects are. That's our next topic. And then how much we should bond for, if any, or just let the money come in September of 26 and pay the projects. So there's nothing in stone that we should go into debt. But remind you that there is money coming in September of 26 and April of 27 that will pay the debt. So that being said,
I get it. So as far as the ethanol plant tip, is that something separate?
so they're in the plan. It depends when the assessor goes out there and puts a value on that new equipment. He did share with me an email on Saturday. He's gonna be back next week, but his emails, let me see if I can, remember, they're different because they're building, I think now, where's the assessor? He sent it to me on Friday. Attached are the original spreadsheets I put together in reference in the proposed 2025 expansion. One spreadsheet is their submission to me on the various improvements that will be made. The other spreadsheet is a tax projection. The third page of that is what you would want to review. And as we talk today, the numbers for the expansion are actual costs. The values may be slightly less, as we often are below cost on projects such as these. So they're a little bit different. It's only on the cost of the equipment, I believe. And then,
And it would be a separate development agreement with them
yes,
if you were to give them any money from the TIF proceeds.
correct.
That would be a totally separate development agreement with them.
Yep, so you missed Beth Eiler, the CFO, I believe, sent me a text last Thursday that they are working on a proposal, and we'll get it probably within 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
So yes, it's a standalone mechanism.
I'll say I'm not in favor of giving that back for the project.
On that side.
Yes.
And we'll have a discussion once we see the
I'm not
business
in favor
agreement.
of that.
So back to the urban renewal plan, yes, it's the 66 sites of the wind turbine project that happened a couple of years ago. And then it is also including the expansion of Homeland Solutions, but that'll be a standalone, like county attorney said, as a business proposal agreement. So I guess the next thing is talking about potential projects. Some people were on the committee, I was not, but I think the first project out of the chute was a building for the county conservation. In our department head meeting last week, you know, it was kind of talked about as some of us didn't want it on that blighted analysis at the current location. And due to other reasons of no well, no water, off campus of Twins Pond Nature Center. So is there any way we can do something besides TIF on that? Was that fair enough to state?
that being the first project out, I believe I don't have the plan in front of me, but I think it's $750
I think so.
right around there
Correct.
for conservation building.
So that is the first proposal that was out, first request, with the committee's recommendation. We can amend that anytime. If it goes to the Vermont Nature Center, TIF cannot be used.
Yeah,
It has to be on that parcel.
we come up with a lot of projects, but we had to have some sort of plan.
Plus, even as Jason said, this is a forever changing document. If we do go through with a lot of this TIF stuff, a good example of something that might have to sneak in would be, we have 2 bridges currently in an application for federal aid funding. We're gonna have potentially 2 or more in another application. Yeah, the feds are gonna pay 80%, but you have to be a local match. You can't use your state, your federal bridge program dollars, because that's technically federal money. So you have to have your local grant match. So, that's an option, would be to utilize TIF in those situations. If we have $400,000 or $500,000 that we need for a local match on $4 million worth of bridge construction, that might be like hey, next year we're gonna build this, guys. We might need to sneak this in and amend the project list. Which I think Jason made it sound like that comes up all the time when people do TIF. It's forever changing.
So then moving on to some discussion and budget work session to potentially move the secondary roads engineer's office out to North Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, so one of the projects that qualified under blight was our west storage bays, which currently also house our survey equipment and our materials testing lab. I guess our proposal, that's, I believe in 2028, that portion of that building. Speaking with Ehlers, I was interested in potentially moving our office to be part of that project, but that's gonna constrict the room that we have. The whole purpose, aside from the building being pretty run down, is to make it a little bigger to actually house our equipment efficiently. Bigger wash bay, for example. So by moving us out there, we're not gonna have, we won't have a year where we don't have a materials testing lab, or have to find where that goes. But we're also making more space for expanding a wash bay, for expanding some of these bays to house this larger equipment. And on top of it, I personally think it would be beneficial to have our office located with our department. I believe I'm the only department head not under the same roof or on the same parcel as their employees. We have a fairly big department. I think it would help efficiencies out there, and alleviate that conflict of when we rip that west storage bay down, where are we doing keeping our projects going for testing? We've looked at ways to incorporate into the present building. Nothing really seems that useful, or you guys came out, showed you a little bit, but that's why we're thinking having a separate building on the southwest corner of the property for the engineer's office. And then in 28, we would do the west storage bays.
So between Roman and his staff, they have the draft proposal.
Very draft, and Liza had some creative labels for like the microwave. Let's see, I guess she lays that.
So this would be in the southwest corner where the blades are, pretty much up to the property line.
Yeah, got to visit with Casey or someone with the city to see what, because I got 2 different answers, one from a city councilman as far as their setbacks, but it appears that their property line is actually west of the fence, so that buys us additional room. I guess, yeah, wanted to visit with the city of New Hampshire to make sure everything's kosher with them as far as setbacks.
So this is very draft, and what I mean by that, and me and Roman talked to, and correct me if I'm wrong again, this is just an AutoCAD outline. It is really not an architect, studs, rafters, whatever else, plumbing, HVAC to electrical,
Which in regards, yeah, we did the layout here, I guess it's not that we couldn't, it's just where do we wanna put our focus on? We're designing 2 handfuls of bridges right now, and I gotta get going on a roadway. You know, I don't know how to word without saying, you know, like I want Pella or Anderson windows. You know, the R value of a triple pane casement window, you know, but all the little things that would go into bidding this. How do we wanna do that? We could probably put this layout and say certain specifications, and then whoever the builder would be, you know, we need to think about this for all of our building projects. You know, how do we spec that out, and then in the bidding process that the bidder has to submit a, you know, say a structural engineer for the truss system. Whatever for electrical, all that stuff.
that's why some go, they hire an architect, and the architect puts all that in their fine prints.
Which adds cost, but
It
also probably streamlines the process because it's someone that does this instead of.
That saves a lot of headaches.
So that's one project. You also have other bridges, the city of Bella Vista, V18, in the years to come.
Is there a cost estimate on that project?
This one,
This
Yeah.
building, just visiting, and I think it's high. $185 a square foot, I think is high, but that comes to $429,000. But I do believe that's very high.
pretty much a steel building with
Yep.
wainscot maybe and concrete floor.
I mean, it's not, we're not gold plating anything, it's gonna be concrete floor, stud framing, sheet steel wall, drywall inside, you know, we talked a little bit with Denny as far as the IT portion of it, and then myself thinking, you know, do we put like the utility machine room where the servers would be and, you know, all that, the machinery basically, do we reinforce that area, so if a tornado happens, have a steel door on it, that the staff and anybody that's at the office can go in there? And also, you know, we gotta think about that for our shop as well. Right now, the guys don't, there's no tornado shelter area. Do we just incorporate that into our building now and then don't have one for the west storage bays when we build on? You know, while we're doing it, I think it would be a good thing. I don't think it's gonna add significant cost, but it's all those little things that, depending on how fast this needs to move, they need to be addressed.
So then the other, correct me if I'm wrong, committee, was the blighted of the jail / sheriff's office. We went through that process a couple years ago with Samuel's group. I pulled that file out today. They have a very good design on the current location. But just by talking with Mr. Stauber and Scott, we toured the Heritage on Friday, wondering if that should be a site that we should look into, just for discussion again, to see if we really want to add on to a 1930 building, right?
Yeah, but the old part was that, I think.
Me as a certified electrician, the power source itself at the current location is outdated / out of room. The Heritage has 3-phase New Hampton power also, a generator system, a sprinkler system, city water. But then that poses the question, what would go over there then? So,
What would happen if you had to hold somebody over there?
We have to have, that, we've talked about, we have to build on a 24-hour facility, which is your biggest expense.
yeah, so I haven't put it to paper yet, but we had some good discussion just between your chair and vice chair and the sheriff. You know, would it look better in the northeast corner where the flagpole is to put the Sally Port and the dispatch / class classifications or 6?
I looked when they give us the bid to add that on over here, so the minor remodeling to our current facility was like 7 million.
So the north wing would then be office space, reception area, and potentially the county attorney in that north wing. Like I said, we're just bringing this up today to brainstorm and to look what we can do with current locations slash, if we go out there though, that will not be a TIF, that would probably have to be ending fund balances or slash a bond referendum.
I think that building got potential, how much we would need, and we've got 3 floors over there, we can take every square inch of right now, just want to make sure that we do this in a way we at least have a minimum same amount of space storage area, but I think there's potential, for sure.
And we did talk that we didn't have to have a tower then, we're hoping that we can just direct Sean board to the tower site, the anchor site for dispatch hookup. Like I said, this is all very first stages of discussion.
Yeah, unfortunately, Travis, we gotta have something for,
Yeah,
it is, and that's that who would dispatch is the 2 days expenses you're gonna have.
In that northeast corner, really no utilities come in that way. The gas is in the southeast, the electric's coming from the north. Do we, like we visited back last year, do we take some of the capital project funding and gut that north wing? If we are indeed trying to downsize from 5 locations down to 2 or 3. Get that started, get it cleaned up. We have a proposal from Martin. Can't think of his name either. But we did go out for a proposal. What?
Mark Moyne.
About a year and a half ago to gut the north wing of the Heritage Center. What else is out there? On TIF.
Alta Vista project, which I'll stress again, I think is a major one that we need to devote to it with the $875,000 in STBG dollars that Alta Vista received. That project ain't getting done with $875,000. It's gonna need some TIF, so. But again, that's not my decision, it's just my recommendation.
That project's 3 years.
2028.
At that time, if we move forward with TIF, we should be about that 1,800,000 a year coming in. Other discussion was then, people already asked, what's gonna go in the engineer's office? What's gonna go in the jail building? And these are 2-3 years out. I mean, I could see the office complex be built maybe within the next year or 2. But the jail would be a 3-year, 4-year project.
That was slated for 32, 33. That's on the original plan, so.
But yeah, if you move out there, you're
I'm
not
not
gonna be
talking
able to utilize
Starting
TIF.
stuff next year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because to utilize TIF, it would have to be right there.
Correct.
So going back, if we didn't use TIF, and this is why we put county-owned property offices on the agenda, what would the current jail building look like? If you start moving the law enforcement vehicle staff and the county engineers vehicles and staff, that parking lot looks pretty empty. Oh yeah, that's pretty much the assessor's car. Some discussion that I've had or gave out was maybe it's time to sell that location or take it down and put up a 2-stall garage for our head custodian and keep the parking. Just another idea to try to solve some concerns we've heard for many years. Other concerns is, could we potentially put a for sale sign on LEMC on South Lynn? And Dave might not like this, but temporarily be at the Heritage until we get the movable parts to get a bond passed for the jail and sheriff's office. And then the attorney would be next door in the new plan. at the Heritage. What do we foresee and where do we wanna, most of our buildings are getting up there in age, that they're gonna need some brick and mortar roofs, air conditioners, parking repairs.
It was kind of talked about that you guys might move into that office too, right? And then this would be utilized for elections and auditors.
A little bit of discussion between some of us, not all of us, yes, you are right. You know, could the supervisors either move out to the Heritage Conference Room or into the current engineer's office? And then use this room as voting day of or the week before. Better lighting, better organized path in and out, compared to the hallway area voting. But again, once a year. But you could store equipment down here. You could store training sessions. So just throwing a lot of things out. If you guys have any other ideas, you know, we talked about, I think I brought this up with the department head. Do you put the jail / sheriff's office on the open area at this community service building, which currently houses rescue squad and public health? And potentially that's where they could go. Again, can't use TIF. I think we are getting so close of jail inspectors say, you're down to 24-hour hold, that's it. And at some point, maybe that's not even it.
I don't know if I think you would just say you're shut up.
Correct.
I don't think you would reclassify us. Just my personal opinion, I don't know how much longer this one's got, what the next one's gonna do. But
Yeah.
This has been a discussion, not just this board has heard, but many boards before this. Where did I go back to, 2012, 2013? Yeah,
Easy.
so it's,
So if you can't use TIF, how are you gonna pay for anything besides the engineer and something across the street? I mean, how are you gonna rehabilitate the heritage without using TIF?
Well, that's exactly what I've been saying all morning. It would have to be a bond referendum. I think if the people get the age of our buildings, the specifications, what do they want the current board of supervisors to do when we get that red tag? Ship them all to Floyd County? That's gonna cost your budget a lot more to
I don't
train.
think the sheriff over there would say yes to that. We've had those discussions.
I know.
It's working.
Any sheriff.
How we're doing it right now is working out very, very well. Logistically for us, to take them over their initial arrest would be probably a logistical nightmare and leave the county uncovered. I mean, so there's things to think about there as far as staffing levels. Is it something to look into? 100%. I think dive down that rabbit hole a little bit, see what it look like, but
Yep.
you gotta have the sheriff over there on board first and things are working out well and good things, so.
Any county is.
Had to be closer, I use Hancock, Winnebago, for example, because that's how Hancock does it. It's right on the county line, so, you know, it's not that far, I've timed it. I mean, round trip, over there, drop them off, Benny, no problems. Switch, change them out, and come back to the county line. It's about 40 to 50 minutes, that best case scenario. As you're out of the county.
I think we threw a lot of ideas. Hearing any more from anybody else on this board, or let it sink in for a week and bring back other ideas you hear out there or concerns? I think we all know with the potential state law changes, we cannot continue on with the 5-6 buildings we have. When there's a lot of green space, a lot of parking spaces. And we all know buildings they get old too, right? They're gonna need upkeep. Do I wanna go out for a referendum? I think at some point it has to happen. Otherwise, we continue with GBGS paying for all these bills, and we all know cost of doing business is not cheap anymore. Any other ideas? What would you like us to get ready then for another presentation from, you guys like the idea of moving office of secondary roads engineer's office to the current location of secondary roads main shop? And if so, do we go out and hire an architect?
Only question I got with that, and I don't know if it's a big deal, but the secretary is also the safety director.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like the safety director should be in the courthouse.
But we got so many other departments that are not at the courthouse. And
More departments than are in the courthouse are out of the courthouse.
I think like your, no offense, but like safety, there's gonna happen up there.
It's true.
Not that they're not doing anything right, but she did that.
No, but I mean, look at what we've had for safety reviews. I mean, how many were in the courthouse? I mean, what, power strips? You know,
Well, I'm just,
I mean, you're gonna
it's
have,
a central place, everybody knows.
you're gonna have your daily risk, slips and falls.
That's gonna happen everywhere.
right now, we're running out there daily, multiple people.
Yeah.
And if I'm out there, I'm gonna come up here if I have a board meeting, or if I need recorder, assessor, or auditor. You know, we don't, Renee deals with the treasurer a lot. But
I get that you wanna be out there by the guys, and I fully understand that,
I don't see it being an issue, but that's just my opinion.
So your thoughts are, this office, we had initially talked about a 240-foot by 60-foot building.
That was for conservation. Or you're talking hours in 28.
Yeah, I don't have any. But that was constructing a facility to like condition current facility, secondary roads.
Yep.
So you would not be doing the storage area then?
We would do that in 2028.
This would get their test.
It'll get our stuff out of the way that right now is gonna hold back the room that we have, because we're limited on space there. In all honesty, I thought about at some point, maybe buying a few acres on the east side just for our storage and materials where culverts are, but that has nothing to do with any of this. Right now, that storage bay needs to be where the existing building is. So take that out, but
If we're gonna be able to use TIF,
yes,
if it's not.
yes, that was, I emailed, called him, and either option is fine. To either include the office in that one or have a out shed for the office, not connected to that storage bay. Reason I want to do that out shed is to maximize the potential of our storage. Because right now you can barely pull a maintainer in or a truck. And our wash bay, the guys have to put on, you know, rain gear to even be able to wash because the wall's about this far away from the side of your truck. So by eliminating our material testing lab and our survey equipment stuff that's in the existing building, we're getting more of a footprint for the equipment storage.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that if we did this separately, that it would be covered our TIF.
I visited with Jason on it because that was my big worry, you know. He'd say, no, it's not connected, but he goes, it's on the same parcel, you are alleviating blight, yes.
How much do you think AV would need?
I think I have about 3.75 million in that entire, that goes all the way to the county line. So that starts where we left off on B18 last year, goes through Alta Vista, complete reconstruction, talking curbs, storm sewer, gutter, sidewalks. I need to have more meetings with Alta Vista because they, of course, don't have any money.
Yeah, they could
And I doubt that the county's gonna wanna extend. I have it kind of penciled out fairly accurately as far as what the city's responsibility would be compared to the county's. Urban engineering was, of course, involved on the city's aspect of it. And the big thing was, what do you want through town here? they kind of seem to know, we kind of want it to be like it is, but, not in poor condition. Well, you might have to shrink that footprint if you want to afford it. I hate to say it, it's sad. I mean, we had to loan New Hampton money to do the road out by Kroll, Kenwood Avenue. It's kind of a sad day when your biggest city in the county has to borrow some money. I mean, not knocking them, everything is expensive, but these projects through small cities are not fun to deal with because small cities have much less money.
I'd probably be in favor of helping that project over anyway, because it's needed back.
But these are all, we work to schedule these so all these projects can happen. It's not, let's pick one, but I mean, it could be that situation. We've got bridges in there too, that could change, it might not be that bridge, it might be this bridge. It could be all over the board. Is it a contractor building it? Is it our crews building it? Maybe we go out for a bid for 5 bridges that our crews can efficiently build and we just pay for the material and then the rest of the labor comes out of secondary roads budget like normal. Or you could put the labor in TIF. That's why I try to stress that this is a moving document. From year to year, it's no different than our budget, if we have to amend it or change things.
I'll just go back to the December 1st concern. If we do nothing, that's great. Well, we lose a potential of $300,000. So if we don't have architect fees or contract set, my knowledge is we can't collect it all. It goes back to the tax box, which is, if that's what we want to do, that's fine. So that's why I think me and Roman, maybe a smaller project because it's almost July already.
This is the engineer's office out at the secondary road shop is probably your most shovel-ready project as far as potential for capturing that revenue.
Or does this board want to add on to the current jail? And we go back to an architect and start that process and go off for debt for up to what, 9 million, say, today?
Probably if not more.
And get that project started if we don't want these little projects to get started before December 1st.
No, I think we should, look into whatever we gotta do to get an architect and get some numbers on what that engineer building's gonna cost as far as, Roman's done what he can do now.
Well, I could give it a lot more, but I got other things
Yeah,
I
and I
can deal with bridges and roads that.
But I don't think not checking a box in December is an option because we already have debt that
We do 23,000 as of today.
Yeah.
But to capture all of.
to get it all
potential.
checked. I just wanna,
And then remember Travis Squire said, it's okay that some of it goes back. But we have to look at that whole House File 718 too. Not trying to play that, but
And if we do move a bigger project, say the sheriff's office, if you guys wanted to go with that right away, we need to assess what the future would hold for the other proposal, like Alt Vista. A $9 million initial project, that's why we had the up to 20 million wasn't it 20 at first? That's why we had that move back to when TIF is at its full, you're at your 30% max with $2 million plus yearly in tax increment financing potential. So,
And with that, I think part of it was to be funded by a potential bond.
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But
in 2032.
Right, yes.
the bigger the project you have fresh out of the gate, and the less money that you get yearly is gonna create more of an interest burden compared to a smaller.
As we push that out so far, because that was.
And that's what, initially, we had conservation as the first project, because, yes, 750,000 is a lot of money, but it was one of the smaller items on it. And we figured that way we're not paying interest as much as a $10 million project.
So I'm just curious, sorry, I missed part of the discussion that are upstairs, but if part of the problem I keep hearing, and I'm not sure how big a problem it is, but that's up to you guys to decide, is we have too many buildings and they're costing us too much. How does building a new building out there and then redoing the sheriff's building solve that problem?
My opinion is to move people around. And, it's either us or, I came in today that I was willing to put a for sale sign out at the embassy, like tomorrow. And see if there's anybody potential buying that. And I know we got issues of moving you and Jeff and a lot of material. But I think we put a 120 day or can't close on it for 4 months. That's how you downsize buildings, because I hate to build something and then we can't sell that, or there's no interest buyer wants to buy that. That's my opinion.
Well, I think if we would work to do the sheriff's project down at the Heritage, the county attorney would be there, EMA would be there. Then you got, we're gonna get rid of that building, would be my feelings, we're gonna get rid of the sheriff's building, we're gonna get rid of where Dave is now. So we are getting rid of 2 buildings, yes, we are adding 1 new one back.
And I would prefer, feasibly, constructability wise, it'd be easier to add our office onto that building, but there just isn't room. The big thing with me being out there is just, I feel like we should be by our department.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, I'm just saying the reality is, the only way you're gonna get the Heritage redone, whether it be to move office spaces currently or to put a new holding facility in the sheriff's office out there, is through a bond. And that's not gonna be through fall of 2026, so that's almost a year and a half from now. And that's presuming that it passes, which I think is a big step to climb given the current situation. So how do you shift the buildings? If you did go out for a bond, how much do you have right now? How much could you save over the next year to redo the Heritage? What do you have in your capital account after you spend money on air conditioners, depending upon what comes back here in 2 weeks? I guess I'm unsure if you even have the financial ability to redo that building without a bond, even to move public health or to move my department or Jeff down there without bond money to do it. To do it well. That's what I'm asking.
Or the price that you get for the existing building. If you do sell and sell and sell, would that money be utilized? But you're putting the
Yes.
cart in front of the horse too there.
We had a discussion on that Friday, that if we're gonna do this, I'm with you, Dave, we're gonna do it right. That's gotta last 50 to 75 years, if not more. It's not just some paint and some new lights, so.
So currently we have, I think, 380 in capital projects. I'm still thinking ending fund balances will be a little bit better than we were thinking. I could be wrong with that, I'll know that in 3 weeks. We are taking 75,000 out of landfill into GB. So I would go out there and say there's at least $500,000 to do some project today. That will not build the whole facility, it will not. I don't think the sheriff, and I haven't even asked him this, but I'll ask him now. Maybe I did ask him Friday. I don't think he wants his dispatch away from his jail.
I can't, I operate because my dispatchers are also jailers.
Correct.
So I would have to have more staff.
No, I know. So it comes down to, they gotta stay together. Just throwing out ideas. I guess I haven't heard many other ideas. Did you have one, Terry?
What about getting a certified appraisal on your LAMC building to find out what you think you can get out of it? That's where I'd start.
Yeah.
You suit yourself.
A lot of space, a lot of potential too.
For ours, we have to probably hire, so same as we're about to be using before, to give us an idea what it would cost.
So yeah, we can, that whole jail facility, we can wait until 2032. Not a problem, I guess.
But for Tim, it'd have to be here, just sort of clear.
Yeah.
And the only way you're getting a new one out there, the only way the county's getting a new one out there is the board's approval. There's no way in hell you can save enough money before that.
No, not for 799.
Forget about it. Yeah, I mean, by that time, I mean, 2026, we're talking a 10 to 12 million dollar project just for our portion.
Right.
I don't know, construction versus like that.
And maybe the city's willing to put 3-phase in that new building at the current location. To me, when I saw it, it only has 240 volts. It needs a lot more power with the electronics we have. Denny called me that he had to spend X amount, I think 5,000 to 7,000. Some of the software cannot handle, he thinks, the potential surges over in that building. So I just think if we're gonna have to replace servers and motherboards because of the power issue, we might wanna be thinking about then asking the city light plant power to get more power there, which is gonna cost a lot, capital project fund / any fund balance, to take care of our very critical dispatch center. New electronics are not handling what we have there. So we can keep pushing that down the road. It's been an issue for years. Not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, those are going to be the concerns. Take the phone calls. I'll have Denny write you guys all an email. But his concerns is something has to change sooner than later in the power issue in that building. If we're going to continue having dispatch with all the, I can just say, camera system that we've done, all this other stuff that they're watching for the county, the building's not handling it. So, and that's what I think we'd have to push for the bond. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
have walk-ins, have walkthroughs.
Even with a tip, you're still gonna, over there, you're still gonna have to box out of it. That was the part of our plan, is it's not enough to cover, even in 33, 34 tax year.
I think you've done a great job of moving offices and taking care of the inside, but I think we forget the infrastructure of the building. It was built many years ago.
As a house.
Any other discussion? I mean, what do you guys want to do, if anything? Like I said, it's July 1st in a couple of weeks. Do we want to go out with an architect? If not, I guess we'll wait for a Ella Vista project. I'm not trying to say anything negative, but and let, I guess, potentially the TIF go back to the tax bodies. You guys want to do some kind of consensus? I'm just trying to lead you guys to something. If not, December 1st, and we can collect 23,000 of it.
I would be in favor of building it out their rooms right now.
And no other look at potential of,
Well, I mean, I like the idea of getting rid of 2 buildings but I don't know what the public is gonna be for adding on to the heritage. I mean, everybody I talk to, everybody comes up to me like, you gotta get rid of buildings, you gotta get rid of buildings. And I agree. It's just gonna take some time to get this figured out.
Steve, anything?
I'm for moving ahead with the secondary roads building out here. And as far as the buildings, the rest of the buildings, I think we're 2 or 3 years off on being able to get rid of something. And we can't just sell the LMC building and have Dave work for an office.
That's a kind of thing.
No, I would say I'm probably not for it right now, because I agree with David, we're just adding another building. I get you need the office, I get that part, but just adding another building at this point, it just makes us look, buying more.
Scott, yeah.
I think we should do whatever step we need to do next to get an architect involved and start moving forward with Roland's office building. Secondary roads office building.
So I'm just gonna ask a question, that's kind of the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about probably. But with changes coming, we know for property tax reform and whatever the village committee statewide might recommend, are you speaking with your colleagues at the 6 county meetings as to sharing opportunities, potential mergers and all those things that we know are on the horizon in the next, talk about a 2 to 3 year time frame, or 2032, a 7 to 8 year time frame? I mean, how these buildings and how these office spaces might be impacted by those either opportunities or those mandates, whichever direction it's gonna go. That's what I would encourage you to do.
No, I think that's happening. It's, Scott brought up a good point, we can talk about it now, I hope, don't shoot the messenger. But maybe we should have a 4 county supervisor meeting with some other counties in the northeast Iowa. Maybe we should have,
Yeah, we were in the process of trying to put together a 4 county, we just had a little hiccup in the road.
we did,
Supervisor passed away. But talked with Floyd County, Gruber County, and Butler County, and started a 4 county meeting with those. I know ever since I've been a supervisor, I felt the 6 county meeting is one of the best meetings that we go to as far as, getting something from it and looking at what the state's doing and look at the possibility of having to start sharing a lot of services. I thought it looked probably like the best potential for those 4 counties would be to work together and share some services. So yeah, we have been discussing it, been looking at it.
I know for a fact your colleagues are all in the same boat, so, I mean, they're all making these decisions and be forced to make these decisions in the next 2 to 3 to 5 to 8 years as well. Because we're hearing it right now, our association, I'm hearing it.
yeah, no, I thought we had good discussion, I think we should move with an architect proposal, I don't know if Martin, or whatever, will do that, we're going to go out for bids for an architect, they're specific,
Our Origin, I believe, Origin, I think Origin's done, they did Fayette's, I believe. Clayton County is building a shop right now as well. Floyd, I think, is in the process of doing one. Not sure who did all theirs.
I think there's 3 or 4 of us that are okay to go out for a proposal and see how much it would cost. Just so we are ready for August, September, if that is indeed what we're gonna do.
So we want to contract with an architect for a proposal and then to move forward with the project depending on their estimate? Or are you saying you want an
that's where I'm
estimate
at.
for their services?
No.
Okay.
Get us a blueprint of what you have down on paper, a 58 by 40 office / lab to be built on that property at, is that north?
1990 Mission Avenue.
Is that okay? Well, that's what I've heard from the majority of us.
If that is the case, do we need to do anything with our urban renewal plan? Change the project and the not to exceed amount?
I can visit with Jason, but I think that's just a simple resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any other bridges or road projects that could be designed before December?
None that aren't already have funding agreements committed. Otherwise, local stuff, which we already will have. A few of those in our local budget next year. If we want to add more in future years, I guess I would like a little bit of heads up as far as getting you guys more of a nailed in dollar amount on them, or what our options are. Like I said, it depends if it's a contractor project versus our day labor, our bridge crew is building it. There's a lot more that goes in if you have anything with the DOT letting. It's not just, hey, we decided to throw this bridge into the September letting. I mean, you're 9 months to a year out with your first submittals on, run-of-the-mill normal projects. You get into something that's like 0690 over the Wapsie down south, you're talking a 300+ foot bridge. you're dealing with potential historic bridge, you're dealing with all sorts of entities, DNR, Army Corps of Engineers, it's not just something that happens overnight, so. Some of those projects, if we are gonna put them in, it's good to have them years out, so we can go through the proper channels. Which a lot of those might involve paying into an account with our indebtedness. It's like our farm to market account or highway bridge program.
So I barely know nothing about electricity other than not to mess around with it. But if you're gonna have to get a green light from the taxpayers to build a new sheriff's facility out there, or you're gonna have to wait until 2032 to have enough money flowing in to build on or redo over here, is it possible to get a bid and figure out how to fix the power problem and have TIF pay for the power problem over there?
Yeah,
With TIF money,
it's gonna be a lot
which
of,
would extend the life of that building possibly.
But would that alleviate blight? I'm not trying to speak for Jason. I mean, that'd be great if we could, but I could just
I
see
think
that
it would
being.
address one of the issues with the building. I mean,
I think, in-
I agree with
I
that.
don't know if we qualify.
I think in his report, he
Yeah.
had the issue of fiber.
You're extending the life of the building by redoing the power and the infrastructure of it. I'm just trying to think of ideas
No,
to extend the life of that without having to get the green light.
And they got 3-phase, if that's what we need, in the back alleyway. It's right beside the post office. But it looks like there's only single phase coming into the building. And we had it upgraded already when we put the new radio project in that building. It's just that,
Asking.
yes,
Yeah, if TIF could pay for that, you could extend the life of the building.
I know talking, I think David Gorman or somebody talked to the light plant. Their goal is to put it underground, but feed it from, what's that street out here?
This one court up front here.
Yeah, Court Street.
Yeah.
Their game plan was to put a transformer on the ground and feed it from Court Street in, not Prospect in. Just gotta be careful if there is ever a new building on to the north end. That's not in the way then.
I think the original plan, they had that addition, pretty much had standalone, that's all power on the HVAC, but that was 2 years ago now.
All right, you guys want me to work on an architect? Scott helps, or anybody who wants to help, get an architect involved and
I can visit with a few of the other county engineers. You guys want me to coordinate with you?
if that's okay. All right, we'll keep you on morning. Any discussion on county property office or the urban renewal plan? I'll just finish, I was not pushing anybody to any direction, I was just bringing ideas. I hope the public don't think I'm trying to spend money like crazy, because I'm not. But we have to have these ideas, we have to have these discussions out there. And remember, quote, the government works slow, so I'm just knowing December 1st is coming, I think sooner than some of us think, so. Being that said, claims, payroll dated June 13th.
Oh,
Is there a second?
sorry.
Motion by Travis, second by Scott to approve the payroll claims that were dated June 13th. They're back here if anybody wants to see them. Or maybe already have. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Prior bills, there's 2 sets of them. One $2,886.62 and another one of $6,542.57 for a total of $9,429.19.
I'll move to approve the prior bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve to approve the prior bill amount of $9,429.19. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. The total claims waiting for our approval today is $695,992.20. $979.23. Of that, $245,000 is ARPA funds for Kenwood project, and a couple rock bills. So that puts ARPA down to only $6,800 left for next fiscal year, which remember, we had $50,000 to spend next year. So trying to get that cleaned up for you guys in July sometime, so the ARPA fund will be at 0, hopefully in July. So is there a motion to approve that amount?
Make a motion for the current, $695,979.23.
Is there a second?
Correct.
Motion by Steve, second by Travis to approve the claims in that set amount, $695,979.23. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, anybody opposed? Motion carried 4-0.
Did you catch that? I abstained.
Yes, yep. Any committee assignments? For next week, we'll bring in hopefully all 3 RFPs for human resource.
Do you have specific questions you want to ask them or address with them, or what do you anticipate them presenting?
My goal is, Dave, is I just want to see, I'm used to both sides, attorneys and non-attorneys. I just think we could use a lot more help with the handbook and policy and procedures. It seems like we maybe not have a lot of HR issues, but I think a lot of people don't know who to go to, in my opinion. And I just want to see if there's something else or some more, use the word guidance to help this county. That's where I'm at. See how they present themselves, and we'll ask those questions. I'll bring questions. These all 3, I believe, are very professional. My opinion only.
Do you want to invite department heads to be able to participate in that, to ask questions, or do you not want them to be part of that process?
I think I'm okay with that. I don't know. Do you want that so right now?
I don't have any
No.
questions, but.
You set a time, with anyone?
We got one,
What time was that? 10?
9, 10,
What? Oh, one's coming at 9:10 already.
yeah, and then we got the other one. That is asking for a time.
Yeah, we haven't given time yet.
I'm just following up from the department head meeting last week, that perhaps it'd be nice to at least allow the department heads to observe and give comments privately as to whom they might have been more impressed with, or if they have specific questions to ask about how things might be handled in their department, or if there's HR issues that they see regularly, how each of them would address it. I just following up from last week.
How would that look, Dave? They're all more than welcome to be here.
Yeah.
And ask questions. July 1st is coming quick.
Right.
Do we have to have a recess to talk to department heads, or do they just let us know their opinion and then we vote? Hopefully.
I don't know if they want to express them here in public after everyone left, or on the record, or off the record.
Yeah, I know.
That's up to them. I think their comfort level speaking in public.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe they don't have any insight, maybe they don't care. I just know that there was some pushback at the department meeting last week about making sure that we're in the loop for some of these big decisions.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they're more than welcome to come and ask questions. I don't know how they would get their comments to us, so just show their frustration. No, I get it. Anybody else have an idea? You guys want-
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Standalone.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, how are they gonna, unless we recess or something for 10 minutes or something.
Right.
Because right now, I think one's scheduled for 9:10.
Mhm.
Anybody else have their opinion? Just have a public meeting and see where it goes?
Yeah.
All right.
So there was no committee assignments,
I don't think there's any,
okay?
there's just the RFP for next week so far. remind departments that, one more time for claims on June back, I think we want them here, policy says noon on the 26th. For our review on the 27th and approval on the 30th. I think your office got the whole payroll thing figured out for elected officials and otherwise watch your budgets and don't go in the red. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Isaac, second by Steve to adjourn at 11:06. All in favor, say aye. Aye, any opposed? Motion's carried.